And we're starting off with Damian Priest, who put up a valiant effort during this week's Raw, but was ultimately unable to dethrone Seth Rollins as the World Heavyweight Champion. In a post-show moment, Rollins and Priest shook hands at a spot that reportedly left Vince McMahon livid, but everyone else in WWE was very pleased with what they saw. PW Insider reported that there was a lot of praise internally for Priest's work against Rollins, and this is just the latest piece of positive feedback sent his way. After WWE Backlash, Priest was praised internally for his match with Bad Bunny, with many in the company recognizing that the Judgment Day star rose to the challenge of having a match against the celebrity, who admittedly is very talented, but still inexperienced in the ring. Despite being an original member of the Judgment Day, Priest has often come across as an afterthought, as Rhea Ripley and Mysterio continue to antagonize fans, while Finn Balor continues to be seen as the somewhat leader of the group. Whether this will lead to a world title run for Priest down the line, who's to say? But the former US champion is certainly impressing all the right names backstage. During the recent WWE draft, close to a dozen superstars from NXT were called up to the main roster, including Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. During this week's Raw, Chance and Carter came up short against the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, but there is a silver lining to this defeat. PW Insider reports that WWE officials were pleased with Carter and Chance's performance in the ring during the match, and the consensus is that the two call-ups looked like they belonged on the main roster. It's also been reported that this week's show is just the start of bigger things for the pair, and while they didn't win this week, the two will be a recurring factor on Raw in the weeks and months to come. WWE has often struggled with its women's tag team division, as so many names are randomly thrown together at the last minute, but Chance and Carter have plenty of experience teaming in NXT. In the Gold brand, Carter and Chance are former women's tag team champions, and their 186-day reign is the longest in the history of those titles, and it may just be a matter of time before they hold tag gold again, this time on the main roster. Now, Ryback was once a big star in WWE and at one time seemed destined for a world championship run, but that was a very long time ago. After leaving WWE in 2016, Ryback has become a joke to many fans due to his constant attacks on WWE and other wrestlers on social media, and now Booker T has felt the ire of the big guy. During a recent episode of his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker questioned if fans want to see Ryback in the ring again, and said the man who bashed the idea of winning a title but is constantly teasing a return to wrestling should just go home. On Twitter, Ryback dragged the two-time WWE Hall of Famer, saying he is obviously clueless about his situation, and told him, "STFU on something you're not involved in." The last line is particularly ironic given that Ryback never shuts up about pro wrestling, 7 years since he last wrestled, and recently put out another poll in which fans said they want him to retire. Despite Ryback's claims that his return to wrestling is near, odds are we'll never see him in the ring again, which is no great loss to the industry as far as six-time world champion Booker T is concerned. In less than 2 weeks, AEW Collision will premiere, giving fans of the promotion 2 hours of new content every Saturday night. A lot is riding on AEW Collision being a success, and the show will heavily feature CM Punk, but some issues are already stirring ahead of the show's launch. Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that so far, there have been no announcements about Collision airing in the UK or Canada, which outside of the US is AEW's 2 biggest markets in terms of viewers. AEW has booked a few Collision shows for Canada, and it would be an interesting thing if Canadian fans can't watch the show that they themselves will be a part of. AEW has a massive global audience who are excited for the launch of Collision, but with no deals in place for the UK or Canada, this is a concerning sign for the show even before the first episode is launched. Last year, Rey Mysterio reached 20 years in WWE, and the Masked Legend has gone through a lot during his time as the ultimate underdog. From becoming the World Heavyweight Champion to losing his eye to facing his son Dominic at WrestleMania, Rey has seen highs and lows in WWE, and it'll soon be time to call it a career. According to sources within WWE, there are plans for Mysterio's retirement, and it's believed backstage that his final match will be at SummerSlam in Detroit. As for Rey's final opponent, the Hall of Famer has been insistent that Dominic is his final match, which is why Rey's name came up so many times during the Miz TV segment with Dom and Cody Rhodes this week. All signs right now are pointing to Dominic versus Rhodes at Money in the Bank, and the idea is that Rey would be involved somehow in this feud, which would set up a WrestleMania rematch between father and son at SummerSlam. The plan is also for Dominic to get the win in Detroit, retiring his father in the process, with Rey arguing backstage that it would be a monumental moment for his son and solidify his role in WWE. Interestingly, these plans may also include Cody's wife Brandi Rhodes, as Rhea Ripley was a shield for Dominic after Mysterio slapped Cody on Raw, and Brandi is teased getting involved in a tweet. In tweets of their own, the WWE Universe were far from thrilled with the idea, with one saying that if this happens, the fans have lost, while another simply said that Brandi on Raw will be when the channel changes. WWE has a lot of plans for this summer, which will seemingly include the end of Rey Mysterio's legendary career. And what do you think of these plans that are being thrown around backstage in WWE? Braun Strowman news next, as the big man recently underwent neck fusion surgery. PW Insider has confirmed that Strowman is not out of hospital following the surgery and is recovering at home, and we'd like to wish the monster among men a very speedy recovery. During last week's SmackDown, Lacey Evans competed on TV for the first time in months, but her loss to Zelina Vega has been overshadowed by what the former US Marine was wearing. Evans' military-themed attire, complete with drill sergeant hat, has led to a Twitter beef with the daughter of Sergeant Slaughter, and now Booker T has weighed in on Evans' look from last Friday. During the latest episode of his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker T said that playing up Evans' legitimate military past was doing her no favors, as he explained, "One thing that I always say about my female wrestlers, I always tell them, never lose your femininity. Never lose your sex appeal. Men, they come to see you wrestle, but more importantly, they come to see you. And Lacey Evans playing a military character is taking away from a lot of assets that she has that she could actually use." Sergeant Slaughter himself has also weighed in, sharing tweets that have branded Evans as a fraud for using the camel clutch, which, as Evans has claimed, is just a move free for use. WWE has no plans to push Evans, and we don't know when she'll be back on TV, but the sassy Southern Belle and her assets are certainly causing a stir outside of the ring. When you see Solo Sikoa on TV, he is the stoic, imposing enforcer of the bloodline and has been all business since his call-up at Clash of the Castle 2022. Even Sami Zayn struggled to get Sikoa to crack a smile during the Canadians' tenure as the honorary Uce, but one fan has been able to fluster the former NXT North American champion. During a recent WWE live event, Sikoa was facing Matt Riddle, and throughout the match, Solo was heckled by a young fan who called him a coward. Eventually, the barrage of insults got to Sikoa, who seemed flustered by the young man's comments, much to the amusement of the fan and those who were sat near her. Given that live events happen off of TV, the WWE superstars are able to relax and have a bit more fun at these shows and have fun interactions like these with fans in attendance. While Sikoa was flustered by this fan, he'll be all business on this Friday's SmackDown when Jey Uso has to decide where his loyalties lie as the tensions within the bloodline continue to boil over. In NXT, Cora Jade has proven to be a force to be reckoned with in the women's division, but long before she was holding her own in the ring, she was, and still is, a wrestling fan. This week, an old clip of a young Jade resurfaced online, in which she asks CM Punk a question at a UFC event, and Punk even acknowledged Jade being a fan of his, saying she goes to as many events that he attends. On Twitter, fans found it weird to see just how far Cora Jade has come in just a few years, while also suggesting that Punk is proud of how well the NXT superstar is doing, and though they're in different companies, we suspect that Jade and Punk are keeping tabs on the careers of each other. It's no secret that Vince McMahon is meticulous with what he wants on WWE programming, and over the years, the chairman has made plenty of judgment calls as to what can and can't be on TV. For years, we've seen superstars get so close to winning titles, only for the ref to be pulled out of the ring by somebody at ringside, but we won't be seeing that spot much, if at all, anymore. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said that WWE doesn't do that as much anymore, and went on to say that it was a McMahon call to ban the spot, saying it was stupid to include in matches. It was noted that WWE has made that spot a DQ, as somebody is putting their hands on the referee, but Meltzer also pointed out that AEW stars are still able to do it. It's unclear when McMahon made the rule, but it must have been fairly recently, given that Drew McIntyre was robbed of the undisputed WWE Universal Championship last September in Cardiff, Wales, when Solo Sikoa pulled the ref from the ring. While we may still see the spot occasionally, it will not be anywhere near as common as it once was, as Vince McMahon doesn't want to see the spot on TV as much anymore. As mentioned earlier, Cody Rhodes was the guest on this week's Miz TV, which saw the crowd once again sing along to his Kingdom theme, but they weren't the only ones pumped to see the American Nightmare. In a fan-recorded clip, The Miz was seen singing and dancing along to the song, and while the A-lister didn't win his season of Dancing with the Stars, this clip captured a hilarious moment not seen during Raw. And we're ending today with AEW Collision, as the show will need a commentary team, and there's been a lot of talk about who will be calling the action. For years, Mauro Ranallo won over audiences with his enthusiastic commentary at WWE, but he won't be a part of AEW Collision, according to Jim Ross. During a K&S WrestleFest signing, JR was asked if Mauro could be part of Collision, and said that his friend will not be on commentary for AEW. Ross clarified that Ranallo is exceptionally talented and can help any organization, but has more important matters to deal with than possibly calling AEW action. JR did bring up Ranallo's mental health struggles and said that Mauro is not a great traveler, which would of course put a lot of strain if he was being required to travel every week for tapings. Ranallo's time with WWE ended in 2020, and while he did call the AEW World Title versus Impact World Title match at Rebellion 2021, this will likely be the first and last time Mauro Ranallo calls the action for an AEW-related match.